It is really my pleasure to introduce our first speaker of the day, Marc Middleton. Now, if you were here last year and you heard Marc speak, you know what you're in for. He's inspiring and motivational, and he's really kind of encapsulates what we're all about, and that is changing the way we think about aging and growing older. And so he is the CEO of Growing Bolder. He's an Emmy Award-winning journalist. He is the host of the Growing Bolder TV show, a radio show, magazine. He's a multimedia guru. But what we love so much about Marc is his perspective on what it means to not grow old, but to grow bold, to embrace this next part of life with energy and exuberance. And he just encapsulates that so much. I kind of envy what he does because he's out there interviewing all these masters athletes that are breaking records at 80 and 90 and 100, and he gets to spend time with them. He himself is a masters athlete, so he understands how important fitness and exercise is in this process of growing bolder. So please put your hands together and give a big warm welcome for Marc Middleton.
Thank you, Cody. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. You know, they asked me, do I have a theme song? And I really don't have a theme song, but I immediately said, let's play All Along the Watchtower by Jimi Hendrix. Is there anything better than that to get your day started? You know, I really am thrilled to be here for a couple of reasons. One, I just love the passion and the enthusiasm that this group embodies. Personally, there's nothing that I find more attractive than passion and enthusiasm. I don't care if you're into collecting earthworms. If you're into it, then I guarantee I'm into you. And also because I greatly admire you people. In fact, last night as I was thinking about this, I just spontaneously made a Facebook post. And by the way, am I pointing this the wrong direction, Austin? There we go. By the way, we should be Facebook friends if we aren't already. And basically what I said as I was describing you guys is I believe functional fitness specialists, especially those that are certified by FAI, are not just elite trainers, they're some of the most important healthcare providers in our culture, critical to healthcare reform because the most effective way to prepare for the impending senior tsunami of disease and disability is to modify our lifestyle right now. 10,000 of us are turning 65 every single day, and believe me, when we talk to people, one of our main talking points, our mantra is, it is never too late. But you know as well as I know that when you're dealing with some older people, it is in fact too late for them as individuals because they're just not going to get motivated. If you want to change the healthcare, the overall performance of 90-year-olds, we got to back out and we got to start modifying their lifestyle habits when they are 40 and 50 and 60 and 70. We love what we do at Growing Bolder. The mission is critical. The message resonates, and the opportunity is immense. But there is a challenge. And we've got to get big business, we've got to get corporations in our business to understand the power of this demographic. And finally, I think we've reached a tipping point. This was on Money Watch not long ago. Millennials, with all due respect to you millennials, are yesterday's news. Tomorrow belongs to the old. It's important for you guys. You're building a business, a critically important business, out of helping people who are getting old. Charles Dickens, in the first page of A Tale of Two Cities, says it was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. It was a time when anything was possible, and it was a time when nothing was impossible. And that is what exactly is happening in aging in America. The baby boomer demographic is the most diverse cohort that has ever existed. Extreme wealth, extreme poverty, unbelievable physical fitness, and unbelievable poor health habits. So how is it a tale of two cities? First of all, This is the greatest time in the history of humankind to be over 50 or 60 or 80 or 100. I believe this with every fiber of my being. Mankind has been on this planet for 300,000 years, and for 99.9% of that time, the average life expectancy was 35. In this country in 1900, the average life expectancy was 49. From the beginning of time, every human being, of all human beings who have lived to be age 65, 2/3 of them are alive today. And if you are a woman that is 65 today in America, you have a 25% chance of living to be 100. The opportunities of aging are limitless. And this is where the action is. This is the action that you guys are going to see in the next decade. Cody mentioned we do stories on cool people doing cool stuff, and we do. And I can tell you what 90-year-olds are doing in this country today is mind-blowing. They are everywhere. And the stuff that they're doing is inspirational and motivational to all of us. So if it's the best of times, how is it also the worst of times? Well, despite the fact that we are about to experience an explosion in longevity, and believe me, it is coming. The oldest living human being was Jean Clement. She lived to 122 years, 364 days. Died in 1997. Nobody's come close since. That is going to be demolished in the next 25 years. Despite that, the average life expectancy in America actually declined last year. There are a lot of older people that are frustrated, that are depressed, and the suicide rate for older people, which was primarily very stable from the 1950s, has skyrocketed in the last 15 years. The highest incidence of suicide are white men over the age of 85. The next highest are men and women, 45 to 65. So what's happening? There's at least 3 reasons. There's lots of reasons, but there's 3 that I understand better than others why people are so depressed when they're older. Number 1 is low social interaction. We are social creatures. Separate us from the herd, isolate us, and we are going to die very, very quickly as we get older. There's been multiple studies lately that show that as we age, low socialization is more harmful to our health than smoking, alcoholism, or obesity. That's a mouthful. You can be a 20-year-old and sit in your dorm room and not talk to anybody, and it's not going to kill you. But if you're an 85-year-old and you sit in your room and don't talk to anybody, it will kill you, and it will kill you very, very quickly. Number 2 is lack of physical activity. 35% of U.S. adults 50 to 90 do not exercise at all. Only 13% over the age of 60 exercise enough, and we all know, one study after another, that lack of exercise leads to chronic disease. Lack of exercise leads to mental illness. Lack of exercise leads to dementia. And finally, number 3, we have all been brainwashed. And this is primarily what Growing Bolder has built a business upon. And the brainwashing is everywhere. We can't escape it. Sometimes talking about aging is a bad thing because we immediately start thinking about what we believe aging to be. The brainwashing started when we were kids. These are not the actual titles of these books. I made them up, but it does represent what's inside the books. They did 11 different studies of children's literature in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, when I grew up. For those of you who are younger, it's gotten better, but it's still not good. In these books, 650 of them that they studied, older people didn't exist, or if they did, it was inconsequential to plot. They were there to mow the lawn in the background, or they were there to do what old people do best, and that, of course, is to get sick and die. And it's not just books. Television's been the worst offender, which, again, television roughly mirrors my life. Television, from its inception to today, has underrepresented and misrepresented older people, characterizing us almost without exception as frail, feeble, and forgetful. And of course, it's not just books and it's not just television, it's every part of our culture. We all laugh. We think it's funny when you get an over-the-hill birthday card. Good God, you're 40. Who doesn't want on their 40th birthday card to have Depends and an AARP card? Or a coffin gift box when you turn 50? And it's not just that crap. It's mandatory retirement ages. It's doctors prescribing medication ahead of lifestyle modification. So here's the deal. From the moment you were born until this very moment, our culture has been whispering to you that age is a disease, and you got it. And now it's not only in your head, it's been embraced by your soul. And every time you get a gray hair, and every time you get a wrinkle, and every time you get an ache, and every time you get a pain, and every time you lose or forget something, you remind yourself that I am getting old, and I have a disease, and that's called aging. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Growing Bolder exists. We are here to deprogram the world from the insidious cult of youth, because the truth of the matter is that you have been deceived by our culture, you have been misled by our media, you have been lied to by your family, your friends, and even yourself, because age is not a disease, it's an opportunity. Until you draw your very last breath, it's an opportunity to do something of significance. Now, it may be something different than you could do when you were 20, but there is something you can do. And until we start looking at aging like that, we got a problem. And here's the deal. The most important lifestyle determinant of how we age is not diet, it's not exercise, it is our basic belief system about aging. We interviewed Deepak Chopra for our radio show a couple of weeks ago. Deepak thinks we could all live 30 years younger by doing nothing other than reprogramming our brains. We age because we believe we're supposed to age. The mass consciousness of aging has been bought into, and because we believe the illusion, we age accordingly. You probably know Dr. Becca Levy. She's done several very interesting transformative studies at Yale University. Negative stereotypes about aging are a public health issue. We so vividly anticipate the negative benchmarks of aging that we actually create them. We do that all the time. What we say at Growing Bolder is what the mind believes, the body embraces. So the question for you, that's the big question. I'm not talking to your clients, I'm talking to you, because if you guys can change how you think about aging, you can help them change the way they think about aging. But the question for your clients is, what do you believe? If they believe that aging is a disease, if they believe they are on a slippery slope downhill, then that's exactly what is going to happen, and you are not going to have the success that you could. I quoted this story last year, or this study last year. I apologize. There's not been a better one done since, but Growing Bolder is in the process of doing one. We're going to do a new study in conjunction with a major corporation that is going to very vividly and definitively define the power of positive belief as we age. This one was done by Yale University, building upon a previous study. Essentially, these two studies took a large group of sedentary 80-year-olds. They gave them all a baseline physical fitness test. And then for 6 months, they divided them into two groups. One group for 6 months was exercised every single freaking day. The other group didn't exercise at all, but they were exposed to positive images of aging, the kind of thing we do not see in our culture unless you watch Growing Bolder on television. Images of socially engaged, sexually active, powerful, thoughtful, intelligent, interesting older people. At the end of 6 months, they gave them all another baseline fitness test, and the group that did not exercise at all, but was exposed to positive images of aging, showed more improvement in their overall physical abilities than the group that exercised every single day. What the mind believes, the body embraces. This is not to say don't exercise. This is to say that if you're not exercising your mind and your belief system while you are exercising your body, the results are not going to be nearly as interesting. Cody mentioned that I compete in master sports. I compete in swimming and track. And whenever I go to a swimming meet, I take a camera with me because it's shooting fish in a barrel. And if I can find time to tell a story, I do. And this is a story that I told maybe 2 months ago. Just like a couple of high school superstars, John Corse and Ed Graves are studying the heat sheet at the Rowdy Gaines Masters Classic, underlining their events, checking out their lane assignments. Ed and John are the two oldest swimmers in a meet filled with former high school, college, and even Olympic athletes. And together with Betty Lorenzi and Joan Campbell, they're about to make swimming history. This fabulous foursome is attempting to break a world record in the 200-meter freestyle relay. Their ages?
86, 89, 92 and 93.
Combined, that puts them in the 360-plus age group. The record thereafter was set a decade ago by a team from Japan. Meet host and three-time Olympic gold medalist Rowdy Gaines stops the meet momentarily to let the crowd and the other swimmers know what's about to happen in lane number 1.
Hey, Ed, are we giving you the jitters?
Well, a little bit, yeah. 92-year-old Ed Graves is the leadoff swimmer. Each team member will swim 50 meters, 2 laps freestyle. Next up is the youngster in the group, 86-year-old Joan Campbell, who never swam a lap until she was 59.
I started swimming after my children quit.
And these may be the 2 biggest laps of her life because the team is now ahead of world record pace. The third leg is swum by 89-year-old Betty Lorenzi. Betty couldn't compete last year and had a pretty good excuse.
Unfortunately, she had to miss the meet last year due to the fact that she was recovering from a fall where she broke her neck. But she's back.
Battling back from a broken neck at age 89 and going for a world record. The anchorman is 93-year-old attorney John Corse, who is about to deliver the closing argument. As the seconds tick by, it's now apparent that the record will fall and that all here are witnessing a life-affirming demonstration of what's possible with passion and perseverance. What happens when ordinary people refuse to let life put them on the sidelines. They don't just break the world record, they obliterate it by 15 seconds, stunning a guy who knows something about breaking world records.
It's incredible, Mark. It just never ceases to amaze me that they can do things like this, You and I were just talking about we're going to be there 30 years, and I just can't even imagine. So it's proud. I had grandparents that never had this. They never exercised, and just to be able to have this, it just means a lot to me that they could be here at my meet, It really was pretty cool.
It's a world record, but more importantly, it's a master class in active longevity.
Just keep trying despite everything that comes up, and everything does come up. But if you just stay at it, that's what counts.
I heard a rumor that you had a broken neck a year ago. That can't be true.
Oh, yes, it is.
How do you come back from a broken neck at your age to set a world record? What's the secret?
Swimming. Really, I'm serious. Swimming helped.
Accepting the never-ending challenge of aging and celebrating the never-ending opportunities. They just did one, and now they're anxious to do the other.
Well, I'd love to celebrate with champagne, but I'm on heart medicine right now, and they won't let me drink anything alcoholic. So I guess I'll celebrate with the Virgin Mary.
So John says he can't drink tonight. What about you?
I'm gonna make it up for him.
And a few hours later, they toast one another, their new world record, and the good times still ahead.
I'm still learning about life. That's what's helped me along.
Do you still enjoy life?
Yes, especially when I break world records.
It's a relay team of hope, inspiration, and possibility, teaching by example the secrets to active longevity.
To be passionate about a sport that you enjoy, to really care about your health and take good care of yourself, and to pursue it with great gusto and enjoy life. And I need to make some changes in my life after this meet.
So we put that on our Facebook page. We did not boost it. We did not sponsor it. Everything we've ever done on Facebook has been 100% organic. We have more active engagement on our Facebook page than AARP and PBS combined. In 4.5 days, that video, just posting it to our page and letting it go, had a reach of 8 million, but had 3.7 million views. It was shared 48,000 times and generated 14,000 comments. And who saw that? The people that you're trying to attract. We're not producing stories for 90-year-olds. We know they watch it. The 90-year-olds are a little bit more tech savvy than most people realize. But our audience on Facebook, 87% is 45 to 65, and 80% of that are women. A 45 to 65-year-old woman is the most valuable consumer in America today for a number of reasons, but primarily, number one, she's making healthcare decisions for 3 generations of her family. So they were swimming, but in my mind, I consider them running from the lion. I think that is in our DNA. Our DNA enables us to run from the lion, which is another way of saying what researchers are now proving, and I'm sure Oscar's going to talk about this or will confirm this, and that is vigorous physical exercise is not something that should be avoided by old people. Old people should be doing vigorous physical exercise. When we stop running from the lion, we get caught by the lion. It is in our DNA. If you want to keep moving, you have to keep moving. And it's not just walking around the block anymore. It's finding a way to, as safely as you can, get to the point where you can leave it all out there on the field every single day. I swim. I don't train a lot. I developed a whole philosophy about how much I should train, but I do not ever get out of the pool on any given day without giving 100% for at least one lap, everything I got. And when you do that, you realize that there are very few people in this world who give it everything they got ever. And unless you do that, you're not getting the benefits from that. Not only are you running from the lion, you're running from death. And I want to explain that a little bit more. This is Charles Euster running from the lion at age 96. Charles Euster was a retired dentist in the UK. Used to row back in college, but then didn't do anything. He was overweight, he was out of shape. When he was in his mid-80s, he decided to start lifting weights. He became a weightlifter. When he was in his mid-90s, he decided he would start running. When he was 96 years old, he destroyed the world record in the 200 meters for the 95 to 99-year-olds. We interviewed Charles on a radio show not long ago. Charles wanted very badly, didn't want to become famous, but he wanted to rewrite what is possible in terms of high-intensity training, active lifestyle for the ultra-elderly. He had a website. He had a publicist. He wrote a book. He published his first book a few months ago. And then he went to bed and he died. I'm sure his family was disappointed. In our mind, he proved the greatest lesson of all, and he became a poster boy for compressed morbidity. He told us on the radio show, anybody that tells me they're too old to exercise, I tell them make an appointment for the crematorium because they won't live long. If you do exercise, you probably will live longer, but it doesn't necessarily mean you will extend your lifespan. What it does do is increases the possibility that you will compress your morbidity. If you look up compressed morbidity on Wikipedia, it's going to say it's a theory. We have had the great privilege of interviewing almost every major medical researcher, thought leader that has anything to do with active aging and longevity, and I ask every one of them, is compressed morbidity a theory? And they all say, hell no, it's a fact. And compressed morbidity is the notion that if you stay active, if you stay engaged, you will shorten the time of disease, disability, and morbidity that almost everybody experiences toward the end of their life. Charles Euster became a poster boy for compressed morbidity. He lived independently. He traveled the world. He competed. He socialized. He had fun. He went to bed and he died. The poster girl for compressed morbidity in the growing boulder world, and there's a lot of them out there, is Olga Kotelko. Olga is another one, a woman who didn't take up any sports until she was in her 70s. She started with softball. Like many women of her generation, didn't have the opportunity to do stuff until her spouse passed away. Her children grew up. She played softball, and then she decided she was going to start training to run. She not only trained to run, though, she hired a coach. And she trained for the hammer throw, and the shot put, and the high jump, and the long jump, and the pole vault. She trained to learn highly technical skills. You got to get your right foot on the takeoff board at the right place. You've got to learn how to come up. You've got to hold the pole like this. You've got to put the pole in the box. Pole vaulting is doing a handstand on top of a pole. Very technical stuff. She became so famous, she set 60-some world records. They wrote a book about her, What Makes Olga Go. She competed in the World Championships somewhere in Europe, flew home to Canada. For all you Canadians, I love you Canadians. Flew home to Canada, and like Charles Euster, went to bed and died, and became the poster girl for compressed morbidity. There was so much interest in her before she died, she said, I'm going to donate my brain to science. And that's exactly what she did. And so then a researcher got a hold of her brain. Never knew Olga, but she studied her brain. And what she found was that her brain was, in almost every way, very typical of a 95, 96-year-old woman. It had shrunk, and it was not pristine. It had all of the dicks and the nicks and everything that an older brain would have. But when they looked more closely, it had this huge swath of white matter, nerve fibers, that's called the corpus callosum. And it's basically a group of nerves that send information from the left hemisphere to the right hemisphere. Speech, movement, everything else. And in studying this was matter that was not old. It was relatively new, i.e., she wasn't born with it, i.e., it was not genetic. It was because they surmise, was engaged in learning highly technical kind of stuff. Her corpus callosum was 3 times the size of people 30 years younger than her. They've noticed the same thing when they've studied golf, which is probably why you're going to see a lot of 90-year-old golfers in the next couple of decades. Golf is a highly technical game. Does it make a difference how you score? Of course not. Does it make a difference that you can do whatever you need to do to hit the ball and keep it in the fairway? Doing that may be one of the best activities. A guy who wrote a book on Olga Kotelko said this: for building cognition, Sudoku is a shovel and exercise is a bulldozer. It's one of the reasons we're going to change the name, I think. We're still debating the name, but I'm going to show you a little scissor reel we created. We're starting a content platform that will consist of a television show, a radio show, a newsletter, and a series of other things that have to do with Masters athletes. As Cody said, we've interviewed probably every Masters world champion in the world. If we can find them, we interview them. We ask them what the hell they're doing. How do you do what you do? Because the closest thing to a fountain of youth that we've seen is vigorous physical exercise. The master sports communities, as all of you probably know, are exploding. The fastest growing demographic in almost every organized sport in America is 60 to 65. Track and field, swimming, cycling, triathlon. That's where the action is. This is where it's happened. So we're creating a television program for that, and we hope to have this on the air sometime within the next 6 to 8 months.
Hi, I'm Rowdy Gaines. You might remember me from the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles, where I won 3 gold medals. Now, at the time, I thought it was the perfect ending to my swimming career. But after 10 years away from the pool, I missed working out. I missed feeling strong and healthy. I missed competing. So I got involved in master swimming and discovered an even greater joy in the sport that I love. And you know what? I'm not alone. Not by a long shot. Master sports of all kinds are booming, not just in the US, but internationally. Men and women from age 20 to over 100 are either staying in their sport longer or taking up a sport later than they ever thought possible. And they're not only having a blast, they're improving the quality of their lives in every way possible. And that's what this show is all about, sharing the inspirational stories of Masters athletes who are rewriting the record books and rewriting what's possible for all of us as we age. Master Sports, the fountain of youth, delivers the life-changing message that it's never too late to chase your dreams. That's a pretty big statement, but you know what? all of those studies that say we lose strength, muscle mass, bone density, flexibility, and speed as we age were done with groups of non-active adults, couch potatoes. But here's the truth. The explosion in master sports has provided an entirely new group of test subjects, and what we're learning is mind-blowing. Physical decline isn't a given. In fact, in many cases, we can actually get faster, stronger, more flexible as we age. Participating in master sports not only keeps millions in shape, it helps men and women of all ages lose weight, beat cancer, prevent cardiac disease, quit smoking, overcome disability, and so much more. Take a look at just a few of the men and women who will be featured in Master Sports, the Fountain of Youth.
But I think what I love most about it is kicking butt. I love to kick butt.
Even though we're older, we're still got that competitive edge, you know.
It's about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And it could be pushing yourself in the pool, or it could be pushing yourself to do something that you've never done before.
But I still hadn't learned how to pole vault. You know, there's a whole lot of stuff left to learn. That's what keeps you going.
I'm just here to race, you know. I didn't expect to see all these people, you know, congratulating me and telling me I'm an inspiration. But it's cool because I like being the one that makes people want to do better.
It makes me feel good about myself at the end, like, oh man, I accomplished something.
When I started driving a truck, I noticed I started to get heavy, and I made a commitment to myself that I wasn't going to end up a statistic.
It's like therapy to me. I got to do it every week. It keeps me young. I'm 47 years old, and I love every minute of it.
And when people look at you, go, that you do triathlons? Well, yes, I do.
Aren't they inspiring? Ordinary people living extraordinary lives. Master Sports, the Fountain of Youth, is built upon Emmy Award-winning storytelling that will inspire and entertain viewers of all ages. It targets everyone who is interested in better health and fitness. And that's a huge and growing audience. More than 200 million U.S. adults participate in recreational sports, and nearly 50 million belong to health clubs. Master Sports, the Fountain of Youth, is produced by the same team responsible for Growing Bolder, the hit weekly show now seen on more than 450 stations nationwide. And the timing is perfect for this one-of-a-kind program that proves it's never too late to find your niche in life and never too late to make a real difference in the quality of your life. I'm Rowdy Gaines.
You guys may have seen this. I think it was Dr. Vonda Wright, who is an orthopedist, lives somewhere in the Midwest. These are MRIs, slices of a muscle. On the left, a 40-year-old triathlete. You see primarily the quadriceps muscle, a thin layer of fat. In the middle, a 74-year-old sedentary man, typical of what you might expect, where the quadriceps has shrunk, a big layer of fat, and on the right, a 74-year-old triathlete. Very difficult to tell the difference in the leg of a 74-year-old triathlete and a 40-year-old triathlete. Drilling down even further than that, we recently talked to Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn on the Growing Bolder radio show. Dr. Blackburn won the Nobel Prize in 2009 in medicine for discovering at a cellular level what we all know and what we all tell people, and that is lifestyle modification is critically important to your health. And what she did is she identified the relationship between lifestyle and telomerase, which is an enzyme that has an impact on your telomeres. And telomeres are the caps on the ends of our chromosomes. And the older you get, the more your telomeres shorten. And as they shorten, they don't protect the chromosomes as much, and then the actual cells cannot replicate themselves without having issues. She likened telomeres to the plastic tips on the end of our shoestrings. When they wear down, the shoestrings get frayed. The same things happen to our chromosomes. When our telomeres wear down, our chromosomes get a little frayed and we can no longer replicate our cells, so they stop replicating and we enter what's called senescence, which is pretty much the beginning of the end. But here's the deal: if you eat right, if you socialize, if you exercise, the telomerase will slow the shortening of your telomeres and enable you to live longer. For the first time proving at a cellular level that everything you guys are telling your clients is absolutely true. So how do you connect with your audience? I can only share with you what we do. And we have learned that when you're talking to people over the age of 50, and by the way, we don't ever say baby boomers except talking to a group like this or an advertiser because everybody's infatuated with baby boomers. This has nothing to do with baby boomers. This has everything to do with a life stage that has never before existed. And what you guys are doing today, what we're doing today, will have as much impact on every other generation that follows us forever. But we do know something about the demographic that we go after, which is primarily baby boomers, and you have to assuage their fears. So what do they fear? You know, baby boomers fear three things more than they do the Grim Reaper. Baby boomers fear three things more than they do death. One study after another has confirmed this. Number one, they fear disease and disability. They don't want to end up like this guy right here. They want to end up like Charles Euster. They want to die at home. 90% of people want to die at home. I can't imagine what the other 10% are thinking. But baby boomers fear disease and disability, and of course, we all know that exercise is the one thing that helps prevent chronic illness. Baby boomers fear dementia more than death. Baby boomers do not want to lose their mind. How many studies have there been in the past 2 years that show a direct correlation between exercise and brain health? Delaying the onset of dementia, slowing dementia once it happens. You guys are the answer to all of their fears, right there. The things they fear more than death, you're the answer to that. You provide what they need. And the third thing they fear more than death, in fact, the number one fear of baby boomers, they fear this more than anything. They fear running out of money. And with good reason. And this is why I said in my post, you guys are financial advisors and you probably don't even know it. Every financial advisor will tell you today, if they sit down to talk to you, that the biggest threat to your financial security moving forward is longevity. And isn't that kind of ironic? Because we're here talking about the opportunity to live longer than ever before, the opportunity to have amazing lives when you're 80 and 90 and even over 100. But not if you run out of money. This is what baby boomers fear. They fear running out of money. Our whole retirement system, our whole Social Security system is built on an antiquated model. You can't retire at 65, even if you'd want to, and nobody wants to anymore, but you can't afford to. Nobody has saved enough money to live the kind of life that we see all the time when they're 95 or 96. So financial advisors will tell you, longevity is your biggest problem. So the number one prescription, the number one thing you can do when it comes to ensuring your financial future, you got to save money, but forget that. The number one thing you got to do right now, the number one investment that you can make in your financial future is to improve your overall health and fitness. That's it, period. If I were a financial advisor, this is what I would be telling them. If I were you, I would be looking for a financial advisor in my city and try to figure out some sort of relationship. You guys are intricately, uniquely, strategically tied to one another. They're starting to get it, but I've never seen a relationship developed like that. We're working, growing bolder on doing it at a very big level with a big company because we provide the positive reason for wanting to live to 80 or 90. Oh my God, I'm afraid I'm going to run out of money. I can't afford it. I'm going to be homeless. I want to die. No, you can live like this. But the carrot is you got to work out. You got to modify your lifestyle. The number one investment. Get out there and start moving. This is putting money in the bank. Sure, your clients pay you, but you know what? You are putting money in the bank. We did a story on an 87-year-old Ann Call who every year changes her shirt because she runs in 5Ks all over town, and on the back of her shirt says, "You've just been passed by an 87-year-old." Ann Call lives alone. She conducts water running classes in her backyard pool for anybody that wants to come. She's a calligrapher. She lives an incredible life. Ask her about her health insurance, and she says, "I have none. I can't afford it. My health insurance is on my feet." Now, that might be extreme, but if you're not going to have enough money to pay for long-term care, if you're not going to have enough money to pay for your expenses, health care expenses, which, by the way, are going to continue to rise. The good news is healthcare is going to get better and better and better. Amazing things are happening in healthcare. The bad news is it's going to continue to get more and more expensive. Those are two givens. Every hospital in America, every healthcare system in America, every healthcare provider in America that pays any attention at all, and I can tell you that all of the ones that do have pivoted or are pivoting as quickly as they can from a sick care model to a well care model. They have realized that prevention is the key. They want to get into your life and get into your pocket in a way that makes sense. It's not abusive, by helping you stay healthy, by helping you avoid getting caught up in the healthcare system. They all are trying to do this in a positive way. You are a healthcare provider in your community. So how do you connect with them? In addition to trying to assuage their fears, you feed their aspirations. And I can tell you the number one aspiration of baby boomers, of people of an age, is to age in place. 90% of people want to age in their homes. They don't want to go into assisted living. And of course, you can't age in your home unless you have some functional fitness. So what are you selling them? You're selling your clients reduced health care costs in the future. You're selling them the ability to maintain their independence and to age in place. This is what they want. They're not looking for biceps. Greta Pontarelli, at 58 years old, was diagnosed with osteoporosis, which is common for many women of her age. She said, I got to start doing something. She was never a stripper, but she liked the idea of working on a pole, and she got into what is a very legitimate sport, pole sports. They have the World Pole Sports Championship. At 61 years old, she became the World Pole Sport Champion, totally reinvented herself around physical fitness. This is Orville Rogers. We had Orville Rogers on the radio show. Never too late to gain strength and muscle mass, even past the age of 90. And I threw this in here yesterday because Orville Rogers, in the U.S. Masters Track and Field Championships in Albuquerque, New Mexico, just a couple of months ago, was in the finals of the 60-meter dash indoors. Now, there was only one guy who was entered in the 90 to 94, and there was only one guy 95 to 99. So it was Orville and Dixon who met in the finals. And this is the final. Orville is the guy on the left. Dixon, the 92-year-old, is the guy on the right. This is the national championship final. It was a photo finish. Orville on the bottom won by 5/100ths of a second. Dixon later said, if only I had leaned at the tape, I would have beat him. Now, Dixon is interesting. I want to go back to that for a second. Orville, by the way, let's talk about Orville for a second. Orville never ran at all until he was in his 70s, never competed at all until he was 90. Now he's 95 and he just set a he's 99 and he just set a world record there. Dixon was riding his bike when he was 74 years old and he was hit by a car. Fractured almost every rib, punctured his lung, fractured his pelvis. He was in the hospital for 41 days at 74 years old, and then he got back out there and he kept going. He had a total hip replacement when he was in his late 80s. Now he's 92, running for the national championships. Folks, this is it. Life is going to conspire to put us all on the couch. The question is, are we going to get back up? The question is, are we going to find a way to keep moving forward? Because again, if you want to keep moving, you have to keep moving. And this is the thing that we have learned. This is where the magic occurs. This is the thing that we don't know if we have in us until we have to find an opportunity to exhibit it. Do we have what it takes to get back off the couch? Because Betty Lorenzi, we saw her in the swimming story. She broke her neck at 88 years old and sets a world record at 89. Ida Keeling. Let me go back to Ida because I want to talk about Ida Keeling. You might have seen her on TV last year. 100 years old. They had an exhibition, 100-meter dash at the Penn Relays last year, which is one of the biggest track meets in the world. This exhibition was for people over the age of 70. She was the oldest, the only woman. At 100 years old, worldwide global television, the Penn Relays. She runs a 100-meter dash. Sets a world record for 100 to 104, drops down on the infield and busts out 10 push-ups just to show everybody that she wasn't done. Here's the deal. When we can see ourselves in others, that's when the magic occurs. If you got one client that you're having success with over the age of somebody else, that's gold to you. You've got to use that. You've got to use that in social media. You've got to show that person having success with you so that others can see the same thing. 3 weeks after Ida Keeling set the world record for the 100-meter dash at the Penn Relays, a woman by the name of Ella Mae Colbert, who was also 100, she saw it on TV. She was sitting at home in South Carolina. 3 weeks after that, she goes out to the track at the middle school behind her house. All of her friends show up, and Ella Mae says, you know what? I think I can go 100 meters faster than Ida did. You might have seen this video. She gets down about like this, takes one step and falls flat in her face, splits her chin wide open. She's bleeding. 100 years old. She's done, right? No, she sits down on a chair, they bandage her chin, she gets back up, and she runs 100 meters 17 seconds faster than Ida Keeling did 3 weeks before that. When we can see ourselves in others, the power of an example that we can relate to, we tell stories of ordinary people living extraordinary lives. We avoid the genetic super freaks. Nobody can relate to them. Ruth Flowers was in her 60s when she was invited to her grandson's birthday party at a nightclub in London. Nobody thought she would show. She had to basically tell the bouncer, get the hell out of my way, I'm coming to this party. She walked in there and she was so engaged by the excitement, by the energy, she had never seen it before. And she was fascinated with the DJ. It's a woman in her 60s. She left the party. She started to read about DJing. She found a music producer. She hired someone to teach her how to DJ, and she was not a freak that was just somebody that people wanted to look at the old lady doing the DJ. She became one of the hottest, most popular DJs in Europe for years, spinning tunes at the Cannes Film Festival for superstar celebrities. Nola Ach was 96 when she got her master's degree at Fort Hays State University, the oldest person in America to get a master's degree at 96. As soon as she got her master's degree, she was hired by Carnival Cruises as a storyteller. She worked a couple of cruises for Carnival and said, you know what, that's cool, but I want to go back to school. She went back to Fort Hays State University at 98 and got her master's degree and became a teacher's assistant at Fort Hays State until she was 102. Nola Ach died this past fall at 105. Frida Lefebvre never did anything artistically in her life except one painting. When she was a young woman, she painted a picture of her young daughter, like many mothers would do, and she put it in a box. Decades later, in her senior retirement community, she was going through a box of memorabilia with one of her friends, and her friend said, hey, who painted that picture? She goes, oh, I did 60 years ago. And the woman said, that's pretty good. And that was all Frida needed. She needed one person that was a friend to tell her something was pretty good. This is what we don't do to old people. We don't encourage them. We don't push the right buttons. We don't connect with their passion. So that's all it took. Frida went out and bought paints and bought brushes and started to paint. And when she was 100, she had a one-woman show at a major art gallery in Philadelphia, and she is selling paintings like hotcakes. I don't know why I put this in here. I was just thinking about functional fitness. I'm sure I'm not the first to think of fictional fitness. I don't know that anybody has an original idea anymore. I have a lot of ideas that I think are original, and then they're original to me, but then I look into it and think, oh, somebody did that before. I think what you guys do is the real thing. I think this other thing is fictional fitness. I would figure out a way to differentiate yourselves between fictional fitness. We do a lot of marketing on Facebook, and why? Because it cost us nothing. And because that's where the people we want are. 50 plus is up 46%. 87% of all baby boomers are on Facebook, and the barrier to exit is too high for 50 plus. I'm not going to take all of my pictures. I'm not going to take my videos. I'm not going to take my crap and move on to the next thing. I'm too old to do that. Younger people will. Older people will not. Plus, Facebook is unbelievably adept at buying or creating anything that gets in their space that threatens their existence in social media. When Periscope got to be good, well, look what happens at Facebook Live. Craigslist is killing it. Let's go with Facebook Marketplace. One feature after another, they just continuing adding to there. I maintain you don't have to market anywhere other than Facebook if you know how to do it and you do it properly. And goes back to, if you have a client that's having success, you need to leverage them somehow. We trust people like me more than authority figures and more than advertising. We've never done any advertising ever. We don't spend a penny on advertising. We tell editorial style stories. Editorial style stories bring with it the implicit credibility of editorial endorsement. If I told the story of one of you guys and put it on Growing Bolder television show, it wouldn't be as a commercial, it would be inside the show. And it would be presented as this is a fitness expert who knows what in the hell she's doing, and this is why. That's the best money you can spend if you're looking for advertising, is something that promotes you in an editorial kind of way. And to promote the people that you are having success with. I mean, this is incredible. 90% of people trust their friends' recommendations, and only 42% trust advertising. We know what advertising is. We get what advertising is. You know, this is not 1950 anymore. You have to look at yourself as a content creator and a distributor. I mean, whether you like it or not, you are a content creator and a distributor. You're a journalist, you're a brand, you're a media company, and you are a content creator. And that has to be something that you're always thinking about. How can I create the right kind of content that speaks to the people I want to attract, and then how can I distribute it? And until you start thinking of yourself like that, you're not going to have a whole lot of luck. You know, we think about it all the time. Some things we try, some things they don't work. We've started Team Growing Bolder. Where we're building a tribe of people that are interested in improving their overall health and fitness. This is not necessarily for masters athletes. In fact, we've partnered with a company that hosts running events, and whenever they host a running event, we go to senior retirement communities where we have a relationship, and we encourage large group of older people, primarily women. Those are the ones that show up to come with us. And we're not going to do the 2-mile fun run. We're going to do the 2-mile unbelievably fun walk. You can't run. We don't want you to run. You're going with us, we're going to walk. And they get together and we walk with a group of people, and they are out there in this 5K race, and they're seeing old people, young people, big people, disabled people, all sorts of people coming together for health and fitness, and they are blown away by the excitement and the energy. So we're doing that with Team Growing Bolder. We're creating the Growing Bolder Life Institute, where we are going to start aggregating resources, information, educational resources, as opposed to just our entertaining kind of motivational stuff. This will be hardcore information about how to live a life of health and wellness, information for caregivers, information for people that are trying to figure out how to plan for their financial future, and more. Last year we started the Boldies. It is the coolest, most rock and roll award show that you have ever seen for people over a certain age. We wanted it to be the antithesis of what anybody would think that has anything to do with age. It was a breakfast. The lights came down after breakfast. The spotlight came up. There was a single electric guitar on the stage, and an old guy with long gray hair walks up, picks up the electric guitar, and just starts shredding rock and roll tunes. And then we were off and running. We had so much success with this. We're doing it again this year, but we're going to create a national online version of this where we are going to recognize not people for who they used to be, people for who they are now. We are going to promote the fact that older people still are a valuable contributor to their community, and we are going to inspire younger people to believe that this is a life that's possible for them if they make the right kind of lifestyle choices. And so I am offering you this. I didn't bring anything to sell to you, I'm not promoting a book, but I'm going to give you a web address in a second, and if you forget about it, Katie Widrick is back there. She's one of our executive producers. If you go to growingboulder.com/FAS 2017. You can get a free download of our book, Rock Stars of Aging. It's an ebook. It is based upon interviews that we have had with active centenarians. What we have learned, the common denominators are for people who have been active until over the age of 100. You can pre-order a book that I'm working on now and will be out soon. It's called Growing Bolder, The Art of the Comeback, because I believe every one of us is involved in a comeback of some sort. That's what life is about. Life is about the comeback. So Growing Bolder is going to, the art of the comeback is going to encapsulate everything we know about the art of the comeback. You can also sign up for our free Growing Bolder Insider newsletter. It doesn't cost you anything. You can unsubscribe anytime, but it is a weekly newsletter that is about cool people doing cool stuff that I think will motivate you, if nothing else. And then we are going to launch in the fall this year a monthly social media feed that is designed to inspire and connect with the audience that you are after. We've had so much success with our Growing Bolder memes. We are going to offer a weekly or monthly feed that will consist of several of those that are either branded Growing Bolder, which we think is gold because you would become associated with Growing Bolder, or it can be custom branded for your particular business. Rock Stars of Aging, we're producing Rock Stars of Aging memes, Fountain of Youth, Growing Bolder video vignettes. We have a library of over 3,000 6 to 8 minute videos, much like the one that I just showed you with the relays that we are cutting down into 45 to 50 seconds, optimized for social media that can be custom branded for you so that you can use it and inspire people to know what is possible. We also will offer the opportunity for you to be a guest on Growing Bolder Radio. It's a beautiful, Growing Bolder Radio, we have talked to, you know, it's almost everybody from Paul McCartney to every Masters athlete, every major thought leader in longevity, every major on and on and on, and you can be a guest on Growing Bolder Radio on the telephone. We also have a national Growing Bolder television show that's on commercial cable. We're going back onto PBS in the fall, and we do Skype interviews with experts. So you'll have the opportunity to become a branded expert in the Growing Bolder universe. So it's a whole lot of stuff there. We'll explain it more when you go there. But if nothing else, again, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just believe we have a resource that can be transformational for you, a resource that will immediately differentiate you from anybody in your area, and more than anything else, will connect with the people that you're going after. So go to growingbolder.com/FAS 2017. If you want to see what a couple of our magazines look like, they're also back there. Deepak Chopra's on the cover of the most recent one. Before that was Melissa Etheridge. Before that was Cyndi Lauper. Before that was Dick Van Dyke. Before that was Jane Pauley. It's all about cool people doing cool stuff. Few quick takeaways as I'm watching my clock count down here. Relentlessly repurpose. Content is tough to come by. A perfect example, people ask us, how do you do your magazine? It's distributed for free in Walgreens. We sell subscriptions all over the world. We go after people on our radio show. We talk to big people on a radio show, and they say, how big is your radio footprint? And we tell them, and they say, it's not big enough. We're only doing 6 interviews. It'll be in major markets. And we say, wait a second. We're going to send you our metrics from Facebook. So not only is your interview going to be on our radio show in these markets, we're going to post it on Facebook where we've got more engagement than the Today Show. We say, okay, and they say they're in. And then we say, all right, well, give us free photography and artwork that we can use to support this, and understand that not only are we going to put you on a radio show, we're going to transcribe the interview and turn it into an article for our magazine. And we're going to transcribe it and turn it into blogs for our blogging platform. We do a 7-minute video piece. We cut it down into shorter 45-second vignettes like I told you. We transcribe those and turn them into columns for our clients where they get the credit for writing it. So our whole business is built upon relentlessly repurposing content. Age is not the judge and jury when it comes to our physical capabilities. We have to get over that. We all know orthopedic surgeons that will put a knee in a 95-year-old. It makes no difference anymore. It doesn't have any chronological ages. Forget it. It's your health age. It's your fitness age. It's what you guys are selling. So you have to expect more from your clients. Change the narrative. As we talked about, stereotypes become self-fulfilling prophecies. Life is adventure, take risk. This is the age of liberation. This is something that every caregiving organization, every retirement community in America is struggling with. I've talked to people that run retirement communities that say, I'm embarrassed to say that 10 years ago I strapped our clients to the bed so they wouldn't get hurt. Now they're talking about the whole concept of surplus safety. Our obsession with downside risk, what might go wrong, eliminating the possibility of upside risk, better than expected outcomes. You know what? If you die when you're 98 years old falling off of a skateboard, if that's what you want to do, that's not a bad thing. You know, we have got to embrace risk-taking the older we get. I'm not saying be foolish. I'm not saying be stupid, because it all connects back to you guys. You guys are the ones that enable people to take risk. You know, you're not going to do something crazy if you can't even walk. We all have to start prehabbing. We talk a lot about rehabilitation and rehabbing. Prehabbing is where it's at, because there's one thing we all know. This is a certainty. Every one of us will encounter physical setbacks as we age. I don't care how young you are, how fit you are, you will encounter physical setbacks as you age, and more as you age, and to a very large degree, the kind of intervention that is made available to you, the kind of treatment that is available to you is dependent upon your overall condition when you are injured or when you're diagnosed. So we have got to start prehabilitating. Again, a message for your clients. It's a no-brainer. Get with it and say yes. As people get older, and this is what you're battling against, getting people to say yes to your services. As people get older, they start to withdraw. They stay in their room. They don't come out. They learn to say no, 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 no. We've got to create a culture of saying yes as we get older, because until you say yes, nothing happens. That's where the action is. I went 12 seconds longer than I was scheduled. I'm pleased with that. Austin, are you? All right. I thank you very much for your time. Again, I admire everything you're doing.